My comrade, laba hleli ngalana ndicela nisondele la phakathi. The comrades on the sides, please come closer. Don't sit according to delegations. Please come to the center. Thank you very much, choir. You can continue. We are waiting for the national chairperson, Gwede Ndibuyile Mantashe. Gwede Ndibuyile Mantashe. We are waiting for him. Otherwise, uzawuthi Mbalula ufuna ukwenza into yonke mfundini. Thank you very much, comrades. Choir, you can continue. You can continue. Thank you.
Amanda. Wait, 2 million rand yam ndiyayifuna kuni. Ningathembisi ukuthi million rand ningena. This is what is going to happen, comrades. Should I come closer? Is it here? Sound? Is it clear? Is better now? Okay. We're going to do this because there are quite a number of loose ends in the conference that we must actually close properly and see how we take them forward. I'm going to ask the Secretary General on behalf of the steering committee to summarize the approach that we've agreed to take in terms of rounding up the conference. Comrade Secretary General.
Amanda, I did say to you, don't talk about Ubuile, we will resolve it. It is now resolved. Thank you very much, National Chair, President of the ANC, Comrade Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, Deputy President of the ANC, Siposhoke, Paulos Mashatile, National Chairperson, Kwete Ndibuile Mantashe, First Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Nomvula Mukonyane, Second Deputy Secretary General, Marupeni Ramukhopa, Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Dr. Gwen Ramukhopa, comrades, we have here, as we call this session, in the presence of our veterans, we have been blessed in this conference by the presence of the former president of the African National Congress, Comrade Mvunyelwa Thabo Mbeki. Siyabulela Zizi ngobukho bakho nokusakha ngawonke amaxesha. We thank our former president for being with us at all time and always add value with ideas and contributing to the development of this gigantic African National Congress. Former President Jacob Zuma was with us, but I don't see him anymore. But we equally send our congratulations for him attending this conference as a delegate from Kanda. We had a super delegate in this conference, former President Jacob Zuma. Thank you very much, Ngamalala. We are also, comrades, enriched in this conference by the attendance of our alliance partners. The South African Communist Party, led by the General Secretary, Comrade Solima Paila, and the delegation of the party. We also have our remaining and one and only remaining is Twalandwe and Sophie Tiprain. We have also, comrades, in attendance, the delegation of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, led by the General Secretary of COSATU, Comrade Soli Petwe, and the President of COSATU. Comrades, we also have MDN structures, SASCO, and COSAS in our midst. We have our international guests who have been with us here throughout the conference, and the media contingent present here. Comrades, the National Steering Committee met on Tuesday, the 20th December 2022, to receive a report on progress with the business of the 55th National Conference. The Steering Committee recommends as follows. This 55th National Conference brought together almost 5,000, of which 4,519 were voting delegates, under the theme, Defend and Advance the Gain of Unity through Renewal. As we declared in 2017 at the 54th National Conference, we reaffirmed that the fundamental task of the ANC is to bring about a radical socio-economic transformation of South African society and thereby build a better life for all. The 55th National Conference was a watershed moment in which many expected the ANC will emerge more divided than ever. However, in line with our tradition, the 55th National Conference was characterized by robust engagement on policy matters and leadership questions. The ANC, as the leader of society, continues to embrace democracy. This includes allowing members to engage robustly, to find one another guided by the principle of building unity and democratic centralism. We therefore, comrades, believe that the central to the task emerging from the 55th National Conference is to continue and be resolute in implementing the agenda to reform the state, economy, and society in this regard. In this regard, the following constitute the immediate and long-term tasks of the ANC. Renewal of the ANC, accelerating the reforms in the economy and the state, eradicating poverty and unemployment, dealing decisively with energy and water security challenges, accelerate infrastructure delivery, advance the implementation of a just transition program, investing in quality education and health, building a developmental, entrepreneurial, and ethical state. We must continue with the reforms in the African Union and the UN as we seek to build a better Africa and a better world. The 55th National Conference engaged in these deliberations under conditions that led to a number of delays in conference program, including registration, finalization of the credentials report, adverse weather conditions, and voting procedure. Furthermore, by Tuesday, 20th December 2022, a number of delegates, especially from distant provinces, had started returning home. Due to these factors, it was not possible formally to adopt the Commission report and resolutions based on the deliberations of commissions in plenary. It must be emphasized, the Commission meetings did take place and engaged in discussions based on the very thorough processes leading up to and at the 6th National Policy Conference held on the 28th to the 31st July 2022. The Steering Committee was also mindful that Certain matters on the program of the 55th National Conference, such as amendments to the ANC Constitution, require a 2/3 majority of all delegates present and voting. It was clear to the steering committee that National Conference will have neither the time nor the required majority to adopt constitutional amendments. For these reasons, comrades, the steering committee proposes the following, which we are putting to you to adopt. National Conference should be adjourned to Thursday, the 5th of January, 2023. It will be convened in a hybrid form. National Conference will continue on a hybrid platform in which delegates will converge at central venues in each province that will be connected to each other virtually. The details of these meetings will be communicated by the Secretary General's office. The rules adopted by National Conference will apply to the continued session with the necessary modification as required by the different circumstances. The Commission reports and draft resolutions will be circulated to structures and delegates to prepare for the continued session. The declaration of the 55th National Conference will be presented to the continued session. Voting will continue until it has been concluded, meaning you don't leave this place without voting. At the time, as we gather, almost 2,000 of our delegates, up to 3,000 had already voted. The Electoral Commission hopes to be able to announce the results of the election of additional members of the National Executive Committee on Tuesday, 20th December 2022. The exact time will be communicated. Mindful of the potentially negative perceptions that could be generated by the adjournment of National Conference, the SGO will brief the media to explain why the adjournment was necessary, that the conference did not engage in organizational and policy discussion, and how the business of conference will be concluded. So media, if you've got questions, I've got an appointment with you after the address of the President. The Department of Information and Publicity will organize media briefings to be addressed by the chairpersons and rapporteurs also of the different commissions to emphasize and communicate the fact that National Conference engaged in qualitative discussions. Because yesterday in our media briefing on the update of the conference, the media did ask what is coming up from the reports of the different commissions. So we'll give you the reports, and then on the 5th of January, we will brief you on the resolutions that will have been taken by the National Conference. The President will deliver a closing address this afternoon as we sit here on the 20th December before National Conference adjourns to Friday, the 6th of January, 2023. I hand over to the National Chairperson to guide the adoption of the report of the Steering Committee. Amandla!
Amandla, that was the report of the steering committee, but can only be validated by being a report of the plenary of the conference. Any move for the adoption of it? I see a board there from Mpumalanga. I see another one there from Northern Cape. Okay, let's take the first two and then we'll come back.
Yabonga Slalo Chigele. My name is Speedy Mashilo. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the province of Mpumalanga. I think it is prudent to congratulate the newly elected leadership of the ANC led by President. Comrade Chair, indeed, we have noted the difficulty we are faced with and the progressive proposal made by the steering committee. We are indeed a progressive organization. We want to move that we support the proposal made by the General Secretary, the Secretary General of the ANC. We so move as in Mpumalanga. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mpumalanga. Northern Cape. North Cape. Okay. And if we let mic up on game for comrades. I can see now it is the mic system that creates a complication here of everybody going to this one mic. I can see now it's not a choice of conference. Okay, Gauteng uzongena emva kwe Northern Cape.
Okay.
North Cape, yes.
Ngiyabonga usihlalo. I'm Kyaleboga Imelda Mamoga from Northern Cape. Ke go lebogile re lebogetse tsotlhe tse lo di dirileng. Re itumetse thata gore re be re fitlheletse re itumetse reporto e tlileng ka mantswe a jalo ke re ya go saluta re lebogile re amogela reporto e lo re neileng gompieno ka mantswe a jalo ka Setswana. Ke a leboga.
Of course. For those who didn't understand Setswana, he is thanking me for the good work I do. He is thanking me for the good work I do. Gauteng. That is move and second, comrade. Gauteng, ideal I should be asking for a counter if there's a counter, but continue.
Thank you so much, Comrade Chair. My name is Panyaza Sufi. I'm the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng. We hereby endorse the proposal presented by the Secretary General of the African National Congress and therefore second and support the proposal. Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay. I can see, comrades. Is there any counter to the move for adoption for this report? Any counter? Is there any counter? Therefore, if there is no counter, conference adopts that report. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, comrades. What we are going to do now is to go and is going to ask the president to close the meeting formally, deliver the closing remarks. Yeah.
ANC, viva! Viva South African Communist Party, viva! Viva!
I just want to come and say, I love my president. Tia Matamela, Tia! Second term, Matamela, second term. I love you, President.
If you were not a man, I would say I love you too. Viva Kosatu, viva! Malibongwe! Malibongwe! Igama lamakhosikazi. Roar, young lions, roar. Mandla. National Chairperson Gwede Samson Mantashe. Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Secretary General Fiki Lembalula. First Deputy Secretary General Nomvula Mkonyane. Second Deputy Secretary General Marupini Ramokhopa. Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokhopa. Former President Thabo Mbeki. I hear former President Jacob Zuma is not here, but I extend my greetings to him as well. Former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, isithwalandwe Mama Sophie de Bruyn, members of the yet to be announced of the newly elected National Executive Committee, who still don't know whether they have joined the NEC or not. Veterans of our movement who have been with us since the beginning of this conference, leaders of the Women's League, the Youth League, the Veterans League, members of the Electoral Committee who possibly are not here with us because they are busy, representatives of the Alliance, as in the SACP and COSATU and their leaders, fraternal parties who are from our continent and region, and indeed our international guests who have also graced this conference with their presence from the beginning, observers, distinguished guests, delegates, members of the media, and our choir who are sitting right in front here. We've come to the end of the first part of our 55th ANC National Conference. As you heard, the steering committee has decided, and you've approved and decided as conference to accept the proposal from the steering committee that we should adjourn and not end, but adjourn this conference and to continue our work on the 5th of January. This is not unusual. We've held a number of conferences throughout the country that were part held and adjourned for finalization at a later stage. And the reasons have been set out very clearly and put before us, and I'd like to thank conference for agreeing that we should adjourn this conference to the 5th of January. Thank you very much for that. Conference, as it rises again on the 5th of January, will then be followed by the celebration of the 100th 111th anniversary of the ANC on the 8th of January in Mangaung in the Free State in 2023. Comrades, this conference has in many ways proven to be a watershed moment in the life and the history of our movement. At this conference, through the discussions that we have held, both in plenary as well as in our commissions, the discussions have been robust, and at times they have been quite loud and noisy, but they have always sought to unite all of us. And through our deliberations at this conference, we have chosen the path of renewal to rebuild our movement and to restore the values that have been handed down the ages and the years by our forebears. And the path of principled unity is what we've also upheld in the finest traditions of the African National Congress. We came from different provinces, different branches, holding different views and indeed different mandates of who needs to be chosen to lead this organization. We also came with different proposals on the policies that should be pursued, but as always, we've ended up as a united organization, much to the surprise of those who don't wish us well. There have, yes, been attempts to divide us, to provoke us, and to divert us from the tasks that we must undertake in advancing our national democratic revolution. There have been moments at this conference that have tested our unity and cohesion. But I can testify to the fact that this conference is going to continue solidifying our unity and our cohesion as the African National Congress. And thanks to the political consciousness, and for the most part, the discipline amongst yourselves as delegates, in that whatever differences amongst us that we may have had, these did not distract us from the critical work that the people of this country expect and require of us. The branches have spoken by choosing the leadership that will emerge from here. That is the way of democracy in the African National Congress. And once the branches have made their choice, all of us are expected to fall in line and embrace and accept the decisions that have been taken here. And indeed, it is the ANC that has spoken. The strong democratic tradition that underpins the founding of our movement has been victorious once again. During our expansive discussions that started in our branches, in our policy conference, and that continued in the commissions that we had, we have defined the actions that we must take to confront the challenges of the present moment and the challenges that we are bound to face in the future. On the 8th of January 1959, the great revolutionary Fidel Castro gave a rousing speech on his arrival in Havana following the victory of the Cuban Revolution. Addressing the Cuban masses, he said, "The people are greatly affected by whether we are going to make a good job of this revolution, or if we are going to make the same mistakes as in the last revolution, or the one before that, or even the one before that one. And he continued, and so we will suffer the consequences of our mistakes, since there are no mistakes which do not affect the people, and no political mistake which does not have to be paid for sooner or later. As the African National Congress, we have made mistakes, and we've had some missteps, and we have paid for them in many, many ways. But even having found ourselves on the brink, we have been able to pull ourselves back, and we've been able to come back from where many people thought we would stumble and fall forever. Because we know there is no greater task yet to be fulfilled, and that task is building a better South Africa that leaves no one behind. This conference has reaffirmed that purpose and that mission. There is no other reason for the existence of the African National Congress than to unite, to mobilize, and more principally to serve the people of South Africa. That is what the ANC exists for. And let us be clear that there's no other reason for us to join the ANC, and there's no other reason for us to seek or accept election to positions of leadership within its ranks other than to serve the people of this country. Consistent with this mission, the delegates to this conference have discussed proposals that will accelerate radical social and economic transformation. The deliberations and the conclusions from our policy conference have placed the needs and the interests of our people first, especially the working class and the poor. We have outlined the steps that we must take to build an economy that serves all South Africans, and an economy that bridges the huge gap between wealth and poverty, between privilege and disadvantage, between black and white, and between men and women. We have agreed to consider a combination of measures which could include a number of interventions that need to be made to grow our economy, including incentives, tax rebates, and a compact with the private sector to accelerate the growth of our economy, and also to speed up infrastructure rollout in a much bigger way than we have in the recent past. We've also decided that we will embark on a number of other interventions to ensure that our rural areas and our townships become areas of economic activity. We are committed to supporting the economic development, yes, of our rural areas through, amongst other things, working together with our traditional leaders to implement the Invest Rural Master Plan. This conference has expressed impatience at the pace of change and has given our deployees in government, in parliament and in legislatures and across society an instruction to act with extraordinary effort, extraordinary urgency and purpose to implement the proposals that have been emerging in our commissions, which will also be confirmed when we meet again on the 5th of January. This conference sets out the path to a society in which every child receives a quality education and in which every person has access to health care regardless of the ability to pay. In other words, it is quite clear that the decisions that we have taken in the past to implement the national health insurance have to be speeded up and have to be implemented without any fail. Our deliberations also set out the path towards comprehensive and sustainable social protection and to the provision of, yes, affordable housing and basic services for all. We realized more clearly that the failure of basic services in various parts of our country have increased the lack of confidence that our people have in the African National Congress. And that is why this conference, having deliberated on this, will finalize its decisions in January that we must pay attention to service delivery and quality service delivery to be delivered to our people throughout the country. We have also deliberated on the actions that we must take to once and for all redress the original sin of land dispossession. We have agreed on a number of measures which will be confirmed to accelerate land reform and to provide support for the productive use of the land. We undertake land reform not only because justice demands it, but because it is necessary, or rather a necessary condition for the growth of an inclusive economy that can realize the potential of our plentiful natural resources and the capabilities of our people. This conference has also had thoroughgoing discussions on the safety and security of the people of our country. We have outlined steps to further strengthen our police service and other law enforcement agencies to improve the effectiveness of our criminal justice system and to improve the security of our borders as well. We have reaffirmed that ours must be a police service and not a police force. And we have agreed to overhaul and harmonize our immigration laws to meet the new challenges facing our country. Crime is a problem of society and requires mobilization of all social formations, all communities and all individuals in a sustained effort to end it. We must strengthen community policing forums and coordinate more effectively the work of businesses, trade unions, community-based organizations, traditional leaders, women's organizations, youth formations, and faith-based organizations as well, to also be involved in the effort to fight crime. We must mobilize all these formations to be an integral part also of the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. This conference has, through the various discussions, provided guidance on the strengthening of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, and provided clear direction to our structures and to our deployees in government on further steps that need to be taken to end this pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide. Delegates have said that the future of our country demands that we prioritize the development and empowerment of the young people of our country. In addition to the work already underway, we need to ensure equal access to high and tertiary education and should establish more TVET colleges and technical high schools, and should also be establishing more universities in various parts of the country. This conference has reiterated our commitment to a better Africa and a better world, and the steps that will need to be taken will be further elaborated as we receive the reports of the commissions in January. This 55th conference has placed the position of women, both within the ANC and in society, firmly on the center of our national election. We must welcome the fact that 3 of the top 7 officials elected by yourselves are women. Now, this is great progress, but it is not enough. I am not entirely happy that we have still got much fewer women attending conference as delegates. We need to improve on that and have equal number of men and women in our conferences. We should not rest until we have achieved full equality in all our structures of our movement, equality in terms of representation or participation, and also of opportunity. Comrades, this is something that we need to focus our attention on more closely. That as we set up structures, and even as delegates come to conference, this is an area that we need to watch more closely, so that the equality that we speak of must be practiced, firstly by the African National Congress. Our discussions at this 55th conference have taken a firm stance against corruption as well. We have recognized that corruption within the ANC is indeed a dire threat to the continued existence of our organization and to the future of the national democratic revolution. We have recognized the great progress that has been made over the last 5 years in tackling corruption within our ranks, within the state, and across society. But we have also acknowledged that we have not done enough to end corruption, to reverse the effects of state capture, and to deal with the corrosive effects of the ANC and institutions across society. We have said that government should consider establishing a vibrant and independent anti-corruption agency as a structure to address issues of corruption across the country. And this has largely been welcomed by people in our country. We have stated our determination at this conference to take all necessary steps to address this problem. We know from our recent experience that such actions can be difficult and they can also be painful. We know that these actions may be met with opposition and that they may increase discord within our own structures. But as this conference, in the deliberations that we've had, has recognized, we have no choice. We either deal with this problem or we perish as an organization. While this 55th conference has paid great attention to the difficulties that confront our nation today, it has also taken time to look towards the future. Our discussions on the Vision 2023 presented here have positioned the ANC as the movement of tomorrow. We have anticipated and are anticipating how our society and our world will change, and we have taken time to envision the organization that will be required to organize and to advance and to thrive in those circumstances of the future. We are not content to merely observe change that will unfold. This Vision 2032 is taking us along a route of setting out a roadmap through which we will contribute to the direction and the pace of social and economic change. This roadmap will outline the work that we must undertake, starting now, to make the ANC an ever more effective agent of fundamental transformation. 5 years ago in this very hall, we set out on a journey of rebuilding, of reuniting and renewing our country. There's a delegate who was present at the 54th conference from the Free State. Soon after we were elected, he ran up to the stage and stood here and said very loudly and clearly to me that, President, we want you to unite the African National Congress. That delegate is here again today, and he has expressed that same wish again, that President focus on uniting the African National Congress. And that is precisely what I see my task as President of the African National Congress, to unite this organization. Since 2017, it has been a difficult journey. We have encountered many challenges in seeking to forge this unity. At times, we have met fierce resistance. We made a number of errors along the way, but we have remained true to the course of the restoration of our movement. This 55th National Conference has confirmed that we are on the right path. But more than that, this conference has made a clear call for greater urgency and greater action, particularly in uniting and renewing the African National Congress. The delegates, as all of you have convened here, you view the ANC as an organization that must be renewed, yes, and must be united. We need, as we move on, to resolve a number of challenges that confront our country, but we also know that we can only confront those challenges if we are a united organization. If the ANC is divided, it will never be able to unite the people of South Africa. If the ANC is divided, it will never be able to build an economy that can create jobs. We need, yes, to act with resolve, to ensure that we address the turmoil, for instance, of load shedding that is taking our economy backwards. We also need to remove the obstacles to faster economic growth and job creation. We need to act against those public representatives and officials who are delaying vital reforms that we need to build a thriving economy. We need to fix our schools and our hospitals, our roads and our water infrastructure. Yes, we need to close those potholes, even as the Secretary General is now moving to a new position from his position as Minister of Transport, where he's been seeking to close potholes. We need to also employ people, because they are competent, because they are committed, not because they are connected to other people. We need to professionalize the public service, and the patronage that may have existed in the past should come to an end. People must be appointed because they have the ability, the capability of serving our people, and that must be the standard. And we must show no mercy to those who steal money from the poor, whoever they are and wherever they are. This is the definitive mandate that I have seen and heard emerging from discussions at this conference. And we are bound by our commitment to the ANC and to the people of South Africa to fulfill that responsibility. As we have come to the end of the first part of this conference, as we adjourn this conference and will hold the second and last part in January on a hybrid fashion, we return to our provinces, to our branches, filled with the commitment that indeed the African National Congress must continue to serve the people of our country. And I want to thank those who have done a great deal of work to make this conference possible. It isn't often easy to have a conference of more than 4,600 people. Those who have committed time and effort, and I know that many people have not slept for hours. I want to thank them. I want to thank the Electoral Committee, who also have not slept for hours, making sure that the election process at this conference proceeds well. The technical staff, the marshals, the security officials, and the many service providers, but I also want to thank the donors who contributed to ensure or enable this conference to happen. I wish to thank the media for their coverage of this conference. I got to hear that there were up to 900 media representatives, completely unprecedented to have so many from all over the world. And I wish to thank them for their coverage of this conference, ensuring that all South Africans have an opportunity to follow the proceedings of this very important event in the life of our country. And I wish to thank our alliance partners, representatives of civil society who've been present here, and guests from fraternal organizations and from the international community and from the diplomatic corps who've been with us over the past 5 days. I wish to thank all branch members whose wishes and aspirations have been represented here. For many months throughout the country, tens of thousands of ANC members have been meeting in preparation for this conference. They have elected their delegates, nominated their leadership candidates, and conducted extensive discussions on the policy priorities of our organization. In doing so, they have participated in a historic democratic process that is more extensive, more vibrant, and more thorough than that of any other political formation in our country. There is none that gets close to the processes that we go through in the African National Congress. Ayikho efana ne-ANC. Lastly, I wish to thank you, the delegates, for having so diligently represented the mandate of your branches and your structures. And as we went through many Litsema campaigns, I kept saying that to our branch members, that they must choose delegates who will, when they come to national conference, stay in conference, not go around partying all over, represent their branches. And I am able to say, you all have done exactly that. And thank you very much. And I wish to thank you for having, and congratulate you as well, for having placed our movement firmly on the path of fundamental renewal and rebuilding. Returning to Comrade Fidel Castro's 1959 victory speech, he asked the gathered revolutionaries what they expected to achieve. And he asked, what is just ambition and a desire to command? Was it to take over the reins of power, just to be able to drive around in limousines, to own mansions, or to live like kings, he asked? Or was it about self-sacrifice, about being willing to give up all and receive nothing in return? Was it about being ready to give up everything and continue on the austere path of the genuine revolutionary? As a movement, we have at many points in recent times had to ask similar questions of ourselves. What we hoped to achieve at this 55th conference was to unite our movement, to give momentum to the process of renewal, and to recommit ourselves to serving the people of South Africa. That is what we have done. We are emerging stronger as the ANC, but we know that our work is far from done. Now, more than ever, history demands that each one of us demonstrates that the unity and the renewal of our movement is indeed an imperative. This should give us that sense of duty to serve our people, our country, with no expectation of anything in return, but to earn the confidence and the trust of our people. So this national conference has affirmed what the people of this country believe and desire, that the ANC must be united, it must be renewed. They also have a deep desire that the ANC should continue living and that the ANC should continue leading. That is what our people desire. Thank you very much. Go well, homewards. Amandla! Amandla! Thank you, comrades.
Amandla, ayibambe comrade, ayibambe njalo. Comrade, can we stand where we are? Because we're now going to sing the national anthem. The choir is here to lead the sing of the national anthem. Let's all be part of sing of the national anthem. Stand up, the men must take off their hats and we sing the national anthem.
Sing
sing another nice song. Nikubulemos national anthem. Delegates who have not voted, comrades, we are reminded, don't leave without casting your vote. Please, any delegate, I know now you're all going to get to buses, rushing home, don't leave without casting your vote. Number two, all the presenters of the various papers that were going to be presented are invited on the stage. They are going to be talking to the media, all of them, so that media can ask as many questions as they want to the presenters of these various commissions. And that is actually taking us to the end of the meeting. Then you can have a song. The meeting is adjourned until the 5th of January, 2023. Thank you very much.
Is there where we're able to monitor?
No. Arieng, guys. But you and me can chat most in the meantime.
In the meantime, yes. So hungry.
negative. Yeah, well, thank you so much. As you can see, those images that have been rolling on the screen there showing really the end of the 55th National Conference, at least the physical event taking place here at Nazareth. The 55th National Conference of the African National Congress, where we've come out of it with a top 7. NEC yet to be announced, and a lot of the resolutions of even the commissions are yet to be adopted. But let's get some of the highlights over the past 4 days, or 5 days rather, with our political editor, Mr. Mzwandi Lempeche. It's been a busy one.
Wow, I couldn't believe that we've reached this point.
It is incredible.
But here we are,
Yeah.
absolutely interesting.
Highlights for you.
Well, obviously, the fact that you have the top 7 now, and then you have the president re-elected with Paul Mashatile, and of course, the 3 officials in the top 7. So that's quite remarkable. I know some people would think, well, they are all deputies, but there's also a treasurer general for the first time.
Yes.
And then that's quite an achievement. And you heard the president when he spoke right at the end to say this is a struggle that they need to push. He would want one day to see the representation at the conference as delegates to be 50-50. So that is something, obviously, that I think everyone will welcome. But of course, they have battled in terms of their systems. It took 2 days for registration of delegates. And I think that's the reason, Naledi, why this conference has adjourned. Remember, it's not concluded.
Yeah.
It has adjourned because time is up now.
Yeah.
So, but I guess from the perhaps rowdiness at the beginning, I think the delegates then composed themselves, and then they remembered that they had come here to do the business that everyone expects of them to do.
I think 2 key things for me. What does this mean now for what happens in January? Fikile Mbalula, now SG of the party, having announced that the party will reconvene virtually on the 5th of January, because that means that from now up until the 5th of January, you have a party that officially does not have an NEC and still needs to adopt some of its resolutions.
Absolutely. And of course, I think they'll conclude the issue of the NEC. It's just that they'll be communicated, I think, throughout the provinces. But the fact that you have the top 7, so the party is able to function. And really, I know the president said it's not necessarily unprecedented, but at a national level, it is unprecedented that the conference adjourns and will only conclude at a later stage. But I guess it's a lesson, really, of what to do going forward. So when you put your systems in place, and of course, the kind of divisions that they are going through, contestation. In fact, I was actually surprised that the area where I thought they were going to fight over the credentials was concluded quite easily, if I may put it that way. So, but then other areas like registration, the new system, the online system that they've introduced, I'm sure going forward they'll try and improve it.
Yeah, I think what you heard from the SG, of course, talking about what the plans are moving forward, and then handing over to the president of the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa, to wrap up the event. And the president talked over and over again about unity. I mean, it's almost impossible to count how many times he used the word unity, speaking about as well a delegate who walked up to him and said to him, "President, please unite the party, be the leader that unites the party." Is this the conference that did that?
You know, this is the problem, I think, with the ANC conference, or with the ANC conferences. From what they say, it all makes sense. It all lends so good to the ear. The question, in fact, he emphasized it there, is implementation. He is talking about unity. So will they be able to put measures in place that will ensure that that unity he's speaking about happens? Because it's pointless, Naledi, to get onto the rooftop and say, I want all of us to unite. Do things that will demonstrate practically that we want to unite. You don't necessarily have to agree, but unite, because the purpose, and he put it so well to say the existence of the ANC is nothing else but to serve and serve the people. And how do you serve the people if you are disunited? So clearly, what they need to do, which I think they have been lacking for years, it's implementation. If you want unity, what is it that you are doing to ensure that unity?
Well, what does that implementation look like? I mean, you saw as well as the president started his speech, obviously going through protocol, acknowledging all the leaders in the room, acknowledging former President Kgalema Motlanthe, former President Thabo Mbeki, acknowledging former President Jacob Zuma, even though he has already left. The former President Jacob Zuma did not stay until the very end of the 55th National Conference.
Yes, and I think remember he was a delegate as well, so
of course,
he
yes.
did not come as an official
As a leader.
member. Yeah, of course, you wouldn't know the reasons because today actually was the last day of the conference. Perhaps we may not put it that way because he was here until the last day of the conference. So you may find that he may have had other engagements, but basically the point is. How do you reach out to those who may have been defeated? So that is part of the steps that we are speaking about. You, the ones who have been victorious, so how do you then process that? How do you make sure that even someone who had voted against you or who had not voted for you feels they are welcome? That is the key for them.
Yeah, you've got the president, and I quote here, there have been moments in this conference that have tested our unity and cohesion, and I think we've seen some of those moments going back to the very first day. I mean, the first evening when the president was set to deliver his political report, immediately the tension was there.
In fact, I think he also was referring to the suspension of the Secretary General, absolutely unprecedented. You had a conference which did not have a Secretary General because he was suspended. Those were the tough moments that they went through. You actually had, it may not necessarily be related to the actual ANC politics, but you had a party which saw its former president being jailed. That is why all of us will speak about July riots.
2021.
So all of those things impact on how the ANC is viewed because other people will blame the president directly. So all those things, those are the challenges that he was referring to. But of course, they are now given the new mandate. How do they navigate through? How do they bring on board everyone who may not have agreed with them?
Yeah, we did hear the SG of the party, Fikile Mbalula. We need to say this over and over again so that people get used to the new positions that are part of that top 7 in the party. The Secretary General of the party also mentioning that there will be a press briefing as well, just to highlight for the media, give them really a way forward. We know that there have been the reports coming out of the commissions that have been held. Fikile Mbalula essentially saying those reports will be shared with the public and the media, even though they will only be adopted in January. So we certainly will take you to that press briefing as soon as it starts. But an important thing that the president said in his final speech, the branches have spoken. Speaking once again about branch delegates and congratulating them, if anything, using very kind words and saying, congratulations, you have been diligent in carrying the mandate of your branches to this conference. I think very warm words from the president. Is there a tongue-in-cheek there for those that didn't follow through on those mandates?
Well, this is the conference of branches, Naledi. So when all is said and done, this is their conference. So whatever decision they make here is final. That is why they would say NEC is the highest decision-making body in between conference. So this is the highest. So the branch, the ordinary man and woman in the street, is the one who takes those decisions. That is why it is important that those policy discussions, those resolutions are implemented because they represent the lowest of the lowest.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of the post-conference, right? Are there going to be delegates that go back and find some contentious discussions waiting for them in the branches? But it has been wonderful covering this 55th National Conference for you. From myself, from Mzwani, let's catch up with some of our other reporters that have been on the ground, from myself and Mzwani Lebeje. Let's see who else has enjoyed this conference as they give us their highlights. Mr. Samkele Maseko has had a very busy 5 days as well.
Yes, Naledi, it's been a very tiring past 5 days, not only for myself, but also for my other colleagues, Natasha Piri, Kenny Mapanga, the technical team, the producers, our researchers led by Ronesh as well. They've had a very difficult past 5 days. The ANC having difficulties in the first 2 days with registration, policy issues not coming out thoroughly by those rapporteurs and those who were within those commissions. The report backs not done as yet. The conference adjourned to the 5th of January. We're yet to hear what they decided on in the ETC subcommittee on matters relating to the nationalization of the Reserve Bank, land expropriation without compensation, issues pertaining to the basic income grant, which are some of the basic issues when it comes to policies that the ANC had deliberated upon in the policy conference in June, July earlier on this year. This conference adjourned to technical glitches when it comes to the registration of delegates, and also Dr. Zwelini Mkhize losing out to ANC President now, Cyril Ramaphosa, who was re-elected. But of course, I'm not alone. I'm with my colleague Ronesh. Ronesh, just that closing address by the ANC President, what are some of the key matters that came out for you?
Thanks, Amkela. Obviously, we did not expect any surprises from the re-elected, the newly re-elected President Cyril Ramaphosa. Unfortunately, no speech was given to the media, so we had to take down notes wherever we are sitting. He was very resolute, very direct, very firm, spoke a lot about unity. There was a lot of resistance since 2017, 5 years ago, when they were first elected. He spoke about the branches. The branches have spoken, and once the branches of the ANC have spoken, those decisions, including the leadership elections, have to be respected. So he was very forthright the way he presented whatever discussions were forged during these 5 days. Obviously, we know that the commissions, there were no report backs, as you correctly mentioned. There were no media briefings as promised yesterday by the new SG Fikile Mbalula. So obviously lots to look forward to in the new year 2023. On the 5th of Jan, conference is going to reconvene. It's going to be a hybrid session with connections throughout the province, across the country. And then obviously the big one is going to be the NEC meeting on the 6th of Jan, and that will precede the big one. That's going to be the Jan 8 statement, and I think that's going to be a homecoming of sorts for the new Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, because he hails from the Free State, and the ANC will be celebrating their 111th anniversary in the Free State in Botshabelo, I believe.
Yes, indeed. It will be Botshabelo, where Fikile Mbalula hails from around that particular area in the southern parts of the Free State province. But also, when you speak about matters pertaining to respecting the decisions of branches, ANC President at pains explaining that branch leaders and also provincial leaders must stick to the mandates given by their branches when they come to conference. One may say that that is a swipe at Stanley Muchupu Matabata, Florence Radzelani, the Deputy Chair of Limpopo, and also Bioscope Makamo, the Deputy Provincial Secretary, in a sense that they ditched the branch mandate of electing the ANC President when they came to conference. That's taking a jab at the provincial leadership there. But looking at that, the policy issues were not reported upon to conference plenary because of time deficits that were there at conference. What can South Africans take from this conference from a policy sensitive perspective, from those who are looking at investing into the country?
You know, Mkelo, there's always this media narrative that every national conference, every 5 years, is mainly about leadership elections. And I think what happened here for the past 5 days just fits into that narrative. The fact that the conference did not complete the work that it was actually set out to do, because national conference is not only about leadership elections, it's also about policies. It's about the policies that were discussed at the July policy conference, months before the national conference. And when we get to national conference, it's basically about rubber stamping those policies. And the fact that conference did not finalize that work, did not rubber stamp those policies, it's carried over into the new year. So it actually feeds into that narrative that the media always talks about and vaunts about. But going back to what national conference is about, I think what the president wanted to do is just to re-emphasize that national conference is about the branches. Delegates at the national conference comprise 90% of everybody who appears here. It's not only about voting for the president and obviously now the top 7. So I think the president wanted to re-emphasize that. So he wanted to emphasize as well, don't take away the power from the branches. Whether you're a provincial executive committee, whether you're a regional executive committee, it's not about you. It's not about the PEC, it's not about the REC, it's not even about the NEC, the National Executive Committee, but it's about ordinary branch members that comprise this 110-year-old party, a party that has been around from 1912, Africa's biggest and oldest liberation movement come political party. So again, I think I applaud the president that the focus must be on those ordinary branch members.
Well, Ranesh, it's not only indeed about the election of leadership, but in all fairness and honesty to them, they've got a policy conference which is in June, which precedes the National Conference of the ANC, where policy decisions are ultimately taken at that policy conference. And the National Conference just basically rubber stamps and adopts those policy proposals from the policy conference or rejects them. One of the many issues to look out at on the 5th of January, when the virtual conference of the ANC reconvenes on the 5th of January, is those policy issues: the basic income grant, nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank, land expropriation without compensation, the implementation of the national health insurance as well, and also the roadmap that they are going to take to 2024 and the policy framework that they are going to have for coalition governments, where South Africa could see coalition governments in Gauteng, in KwaZulu-Natal, and also at a national level, with the ANC in 2021 dropping below 50%. Kenny, as we link to you as well, as we were covering this conference with our many colleagues that are also connected with us. Over to you, Kenny.
Thank you to my colleague Samkele Masego. Indeed, when we approach the ANC's 55th conference, we approached it beyond the election that's going to take place. In an unusual turn of events, it's adjourned without us getting to the substantive business of the day. Of course, in the last 5 years, it has been a difficult time for the ANC. So this was an opportune time for us to get those policies emanating from that conference that were going to be accepted or adopted here at this conference and explain to South Africans how it was going to affect them. However, at this stage, we're going to have to wait for January to understand how the ANC is going to solve some of the systemic, social and economic challenges that we're facing in this country. I'm joined by an international editor for the SABC News, Ms. Sophie Mukwena, who's going to elaborate further on this. Thank you so much for joining us. In an unusual turn of events, they've closed or adjourned this conference rather to January without us having an understanding of how they're going to approach some of the, at least the immediate problems that we have. What do you make of that, Ms. Mukwena?
Well, it was clear when I spoke to Nomvula Mokonyane on Saturday night, Friday night, and also on Sunday, that there are delays and therefore they are not going to be able to conclude the business of conference. And therefore it did happen, as you can see. I just hope that they will find a way to capture the lost ground, because as you can see, it is going to be a difficult one. And as we speak, if the camera can just, if possible, turn there, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma speaking to Fikile Mbalula there, you can see that there's a lot that the ANC has to do. You know that there was a tension, particularly towards this conference, and it was clear that there was going to be these delays, and the issues that crippled the build-up to the conference did play itself here, and therefore these delays are not something that was not expected. What is critical is to ensure that the president of the ANC, now in charge and firmly in charge, he does ensure that on the 5th of January next year, he is able to ensure that again they do convene the conference and finalize the outstanding matters. But it is going to be a difficult one. Particularly, it is the first time where you have a conference and we are leaving the precinct where the conference was held, not knowing who are the members of the National Executive Committee. These are men and women who are supposed to lead the ANC for the next 5 years. And I think it is a very difficult time for the ANC. And but this time around, President of the ANC has got support from his Secretary General. He does have a support from the chairperson, the Deputy Secretary, the second Deputy Secretary, and with the first Deputy Secretary, I know her in politics. When the matters have been concluded, she tends to rally behind the leader. she is going to do just that. You also have Paul Mashatile, and that walkabout earlier on, the president and the deputy president, it is the first time. Normally, it is just the president who's doing that, and therefore you could see that the president of the ANC was really ensuring that there's no gap like it has been previously.
To interject, Ms. Mokoena, does this inspire confidence for South Africans that they had all hopes for load shedding, issues such as crime, poverty, etc., that they would have an understanding of how the ANC is going to take it forward?
Between now and the 5th of January, it is going to be a problem for South Africans to be convinced that the ANC is ready, and it has kind of corrected itself. But the 5th of January will be a determining date, but also January 8th, they can still undo the damage.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mokoena. So we'll wait for January to find out when the ANC will be adopting some of those policy proposals that they have discussed during this conference, as well as a policy conference that preceded before it. I'm going to toss over to my colleague, Pamani Baloy.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Indeed, it has been a long 5 days here at Nasrec, bringing conversations that were being had in this precinct by ANC leaders who had met for this past 5 days to map a way forward for the party to carry this county forward. But as conversations were being had here in Nasrec, other conversations were being had by you, our viewer, on social media to talk about, hashtag ANC55, hashtag SABC News, and so many other hashtags that were happening. Right now, I'm joined by my colleague, Stembiso Stole, who's been monitoring these social media conversations. Stembiso, it's been quite interesting on social media. What are some of the sentiments that you take out of this conference?
Well, we all know that the president delivered his final address today. Some matters that are outstanding will be attended to next year in January. We know the voting of the additional members is still continuing at this point. The sentiment on social media is that there are those who are saying, finally, it's over. We've seen a lot of this about the conference. We can get back to our life. But in between, there's been, in terms of that's a sentiment on social media. As I was saying, we look forward to what these leaders will be doing for us. And then you also had an interesting interview, right, about with Esther Matabati, talking about his role and the changes that he tried to make within the ANC. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think he has an answer that he needs to account for?
Oh, Sembi, so it's been very interesting monitoring the developments that have been happening in Limpopo, where we've seen a lot of social media videos that affect leaders in Limpopo. We've seen Amar Bouves, which is now essentially trending. We've seen our premier being what is called being blue-ticked. And this morning when we spoke to him, so we have to wrap up. There's a press conference currently ongoing. Back to you in studio.
We've been with members of the media since last week, Thursday. They've given us good coverage about the 55th National Conference, updating everyone out there who was taking interest. So I'm going to hand over to the SG. Just after this briefing, what we are going to be doing, but the SG will talk to those, is that you'll also be engaging with various chairs and reporters of commissions on the draft resolutions of the commissions that they were facilitating, similar to what we did during the policy conference. SG?
Thank you very much, Comrade Pule. To the first and second Deputy Secretary General, if you've got questions, you'll be asking questions, we'll answer, all of us here. But you have covered fully the report of the steering committee in terms of the adjournment of the conference. We will now meet hybrid on the 5th of January from Mangaung ahead of the January 8th of the African National Congress. We have adjourned the conference. The results of the additional members will be announced tonight as they conclude counting. The Electoral Commission, together with the media, Comrade Pule, will coordinate that announcement of the additional members of the National Executive Committee. We have had a number of glitches, which we have stated, which have inconvenienced the program of this conference, from the registration and also in terms of the voting. The voting has taken a lot of time, but we have managed to convene all the commissions, and the commission's rapporteurs and chairpersons of the different commissions will be here to give you a flavor of the discussions. I have explained to you yesterday when you complained that the conference is closed. What are you doing here if we are not opening the conference to you? The rapporteurs will give you a flavor, a report, briefly overview of the things that were discussed and what is the attitude of the conference on those issues that you would like to understand how we seek to resolve, from electricity, load shedding, to a number of issues that you want to engage us on. On the 5th, we will give you the resolutions. We have had to take this step because the constitutional amendments are key, but also we didn't want to do a rush work and without concluding properly on the issues to be debated. You want to know about step aside and all of that. We don't want to leave confusion where people say, where was the resolution taken? And so on. So we took a bold step to say we will finalize in the hybrid form so that we give everyone ample time to understand the resolution we are taking going forward. So that is why, among others, we have had to actually adjourn the conference, and the president gave you that address not so long ago. So thank you very much for your time. I promised you an official's briefing. We have decided to schedule that briefing in Mangaung ahead of the January 8, because it was practically impossible to do it today. So we'll do that briefing in Mangaung when we celebrate the ANC January 8. Thank you very much. I think you were there in plenary when I explained and read the report of the steering committee, which was adopted on the adjournment. So I don't want to waste time because we've got the rapporteurs here from different commissions, and then they are going to field questions and explain the discussions that took place and what are the issues that arise from those commissions. So we don't want really to waste time. If you've got questions on the issues of the adjournment and the conference in general, we can take those questions now. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Let's just check, SG.
Yeah.
Can the team just hand over the roving mics? Comrade Andres, please assist the DIP team with the media relations team from DIP with the list of all the reporters that are here so that we can do the lineup of who is starting and all of that, because I don't think that our media relations team has covered that. So it's easier when we do what the SG says we must do soon after this briefing. Okay? Yeah? The media outlet you represent and your name, and then proceed with your question.
Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. The inability to close a scheduled conference within the allocated time, does this reflect on any way on the party's ability to govern nationally, provincially and locally? And then secondly, we are also told that the entire top 7 would be here. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Will the other members be joining us soon? Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the next question, but I think the SG did clarify that the media briefing we spoke about yesterday of the top 7 is going to take place, but it will take place on the sidelines of the NEC or of the continuation of this conference, because they want to just communicate and convey to yourselves all the decisions, including the declaration. Okay.
My name is Tando Mayeko from the Business Day. Now, we understand that some commission, actually a lot of them, were really attended by the delegates throughout this week, throughout the conference. Some were loitering around and partying, as the president said in his closing address earlier today. Do you think it will in any way affect the product, as in the policy outcomes of the ANC? Do you expect any changes, or will it remain the same? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's Govin Whittles from Newsroom Africa, Channel 405. The content of the President's closing address, was that based on the discussions in the ANC's commissions, or are those just his views, particularly regarding some of the decisions that he said the ANC must take, the NHI, corruption, so on? Thank you.
So let's take all the hands, and then the SGO will answer. They can take turns.
Thank you. Kopano Gumbi from Reuters. Just some clarity from the Commission, especially around economic transformation. Were any new policies introduced in this one, or should we expect that it will remain as we've seen before? Thanks.
To avoid any temptation, the reporters are here. Yes. So questions like those must be written down and asked to the relevant reporters. So please, are avoiding temptation. They are coming, they are here. Okay, let's proceed.
Thank you so much. I am Hlenge Wendlovu from the Vet School of Governance, and I would like to congratulate the 2 women at the platform for pushing the numbers. So the president highlighted the issue of gender parity in his speech. So I just wanted to ask that, knowing that the positions that you've taken are very important, but not as strategic enough to move the women's agenda forward, what are the plans that you have or strategies in place that you're going to implement from here, so much that in 2027 you are going to deliver a woman president, uncontested, unhumiliated at this conference? Thank you.
Okay, all the hands. So I just take, so SGS said we just take this round the answer, because you are going to be engaging with the reporters. There was also the gender reference group, which had its own commission. Then they presented previously. But we'll just make sure that the SGO deals with it. Comrade Nomvola, the DSG is here, and Marubin, they will be able to deal with those, our 2 DSGs.
Thank you very much. My name is Ngosi Konamalingamnisi from Power FM. I know outgoing or former national spokesperson, you've mentioned that the issue around gender parity will be discussed by those that chaired the commissions. However, seeing that the women that are now elected are here themselves, I'm sure they would want to have some form of contribution here. So my question with regards to gender parity in the party, do you feel as if the party, it's because Dr. Gwendra Mohopa said it's not only a win for women, but it is also one for the party. Do you feel as if the party, in fact, is moving towards that direction of allowing and enabling women to take up their space, or was it an issue of numbers? Thank you very much.
Sanbonan.
Okay. Let's move that. So we're not going to recognize any new hand. We go with the ones we have. You can.
Okay. Good afternoon. Nomazi Mankosi from Sowetan. I just wanted to know and get clarity on what the role of the 2 DSGs will be going forward.
Thank you. Khutazo Marisa at the Sunday Times. The president said that he was very unhappy with the attendance or lack thereof of women as compared to that of men. I just wanted to, as delegates, I just wanted to check, wasn't it in the guidelines that the attendance here will be 50-50, and that where a a branch is sending two, you will make sure that one is a woman, and where there's three, you will make sure that two are women. That was my understanding, unless I'm correct. What happened there? I mean, even the president said up there that he was unhappy that there were more men here. Can you just explain perhaps what happened there? Thanks.
Good afternoon. Ikamala Ngulindelan Mbata from Kagasi FM. I'm not too sure if I'll be diverting, but my question is directed to Maropene Ramakgopa, the second DSG. I just want to know if you, because you have been in the task team that was given a duty to oversee this. So I just want to find out, are you aware of the workers that haven't been paid in the office of the president and also in the office of the SG? Are you aware of that? If yes, what have you done about it? If no, what are you going to do about it? Because it's so sad when you listen to their stories. Because those are the people that we are staying with. They are our families. We are staying with. They are our neighbors. So are you aware of that? If not, maybe what is it that you're going to do? Thank you.
Gavin, I gave you a chance. I did say that was the last round. We are now going to proceed with answers. I think the question that you are asking has to do with the NEC of the Women's League, not what Marupin is doing now as the coordinator. But it's okay, you will answer. Oh, sorry, Comrade Nombola, the DSD just clarified me. They will deal with the question. They are more in the know about, also clarify. Okay.
Okay, SG.
I'll give the second TSG and the first TSG to answer the questions they can answer, and then I'll close.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Secretary General. I'll start with the issue of the ANC Women's League. All I know is that all our staff members have been paid by the ANC Women's League. And this, we are talking about staff members that have got contracts at least with the ANC Women's League. If there's anyone else who claims not to be paid and has got a contract with the ANC Women's League, we'll definitely, they can come to us and we'll speak about it. On the issues of those that were directly paid by the ANC, all of them that I know about have been paid and continues to be paid by the Office of the Treasurer General, of course, just like all the staff members of the ANC. So if there's anybody else who's raising issues, they can just come and talk to me and I'll be able to assist them. But we are not aware of anybody who has a contract with us or with the ANC who hasn't been paid. If there are people maybe who've been there, but their contract ended at some specific point, that part we will not be able to assist because people who are not doing work cannot be paid, or people who don't have contracts cannot be paid, because how are we going to base the payment of such people, especially when we do auditing on? So, but if there's anything like that, please tell them to come and talk to us. I think I'll also just like to address the issue that was raised by the colleague from Power FM on the issue of, is it the issue of 3 women, is it an issue of numbers or is it a qualitative issue? I think first of all, we are comrades and members of the ANC in our own right, and we've got credible credentials to be elected, of course, where we are. It is definitely not about issues of numbers, but it is more on ensuring that the ANC does reflect its own membership, but it also reflects on gender parity, which is very important. It's not about crunching numbers and just to say that we've got 3, but if you look at where we are based as members of the organization, we are based in the SGO, which is the machinery of the organization, as well as the treasury, which is, of course, where resources will be dispersed to be able to assist the organization to do its programs. So I would not say that it is about numbers, but it is more about the qualitative contributions and roles that we'll be playing in order to ensure that the organization called the ANC will definitely do what it's supposed to do. I think I'm fine.
Thank you very much, Comrade Marupini, TSG. On a lighter note, after we were elected yesterday, myself and Comrade Marupini told the SG that we are all SGs, and we deputize him in the work. And we're looking forward to working together as a collective. Just dealing firstly with the issue of the two DSGs. In the organizational renewal engagement of the ANC and the review of the structure of the ANC, one of the things that came out glaringly was the political incapacity at the level of headquarters, that in as much as you may have administrative capacity, you do need additional political leadership that can share different responsibilities so that then there is authority in whosoever has that mandate. And out of those deliberations, we then went to the policy conference, and that's when then there was this proposal mooted, which then got adopted yesterday. Where we are, it is quite clear that the roles and responsibilities will be in line with the plans around the reorganization of the ANC and the role of the SG. In terms of political management, strategic leadership, as well as providing guidance on the functioning of the National Executive Committee and all structures of the ANC. So it is not just a decision that has been arrived at with regard to creating space for additional people. It is informed by the review as well as the modernization process of the African National Congress. And we're looking forward to those responsibilities already being spelled out in the Constitution as well as in the program of action for the coming 5 years, and the inputs that are going to come from the commissions on organizational renewal, organizational management, as well as organizational development. The second issue that I want to also deal with, what are the plans for the women's agenda? The agenda is informed by the aims and objectives of the ANC, that of building a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa. But amongst other things is to ensure that we have capacity and capability not only of individuals, but the institution, the African National Congress, of being able to be gender sensitive, as well as being able to be conscious in taking decisions, as well as ensuring that we respond to issues that affect women, not only on the social front, but also in the area of security, in the area of leadership, as well as in the area of economic development. There is a document that was presented in the policy conference. It has since been incorporated in the organizational report that speaks on those issues that are going to be prioritized. And once the resolutions are adopted, that would also be shared with your good selves post the Mangaung meeting that is going to be a hybrid session. What are the reasons for the adjournment of this conference? The reasons are straightforward. Many of our delegates have to go to work tomorrow. They have to report for duty. Secondly, we also had challenges about the accreditation process, because headquarters has actually been ahead of our members in terms of using a system that our members had not necessarily complied with, and that actually created a problem. On the issues of elections and stuff, we know that at plenary, delegates also have a right to nominate from the floor. And of importance is that everybody who was also nominated from the floor had to go through that vetting process that everyone went through prior to the nominations being pronounced by Comrade Khalema. So there was work that was done the entire night yesterday until this morning at 2:30, between ourselves in the ANC working together with the Electoral Committee. So there was work, and that is one of the things that was overlooked, that being nominated, it must not automatically mean you go into the ballot. There must also be, you must fulfill that process that the guidelines had actually put out as a condition. On the representation of women and what the president has raised, part of the constitutional amendments were also sharing, just reflecting earlier on with Comrade Marupini, the DSG, that one of the constraints is the constitutional requirement. The ANC branches have grown, but as they have grown, the Constitution says a branch has to be represented, a branch in good standing has to be represented by one delegate. So what you do then, you first allocate every branch in good standing, one delegate. And that actually reflected that the majority of the delegates who were then elected by branches were men. So it immediately just created a problem. And then the proportional allocation was an allocation that was given to those branches that has got more than an additional 150 and then another 150 going upward. And that's where then gender parity applied, where you have the second delegate being a female. Of course, in the 4,000, there are, I think in our estimation, we had almost just 270 that were represented by women. And we do believe that it's quite an indictment on the ANC, and a lot of work has to be done. So that constitutional requirement, SG, that says 1, we definitely have to look at it. It does not say 2. And imagine if we had 2, we would have had 8,000 just as a start, being representatives of branches only. The non-attendance in commissions, one of the things that we have also registered is exactly that. Without defending those who actually went AWOL from commissions, provinces had met and there were submissions. And in one of the commissions that I chaired, we had a lot of submissions that were coming from the provincial presentations. So we do take note that there was a poor attendance in some, not even in all of them, but there was also submissions that were made on behalf of a province or on behalf of a sector. The leagues themselves have also had their submissions presented in the different commissions. I think, SG, those are the areas that I would respond to, and you may then add if I've omitted anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Top 7, I've promised you that, and I still keep that promise, and it will happen next year. The top 7 of the ANC, led by the president, before January 8 in Mangaung. The allegation that our commissions were poorly attended, it's a poor, unfounded fabrication. Because we finished, I briefed you yesterday, we finished around 12 o'clock, the commissions. We voted up until that time. So you were voting from the commissions for the top 7, and that is what happened. So our commissions were well attended, and they produced good results. and the rapporteurs and the chairs of the commissions will give you the flavor of what was discussed and what is the attitude of the delegates and the conference on a whole number of issues, up until we come back to you again in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The president of the ANC is the custodian of policy. He pronounces policy. It means he has read the resolutions. He has a thorough understanding of what is the spirit of conference on a whole number of issues. So there's nothing like personal views from the president. He is given that by the ANC constitution. Just like me, I'm the custodian of the ANC constitution. You misbehave, I deal with you. And there will be no retreat on that. That's what this conference have bestowed on me, not as Mbalula, Secretary General. Is expected to enforce the law of the ANC. Renewal or death. That's what we must do. When we say we renew, we must be unambiguous about the renewal. It must be felt, it must be seen. That this is the party that is renewing itself, not a party that comes to a conference and struggles with registration. In the era of technological highway, people are using technology and all of that. What happened here will be something of the past. The ANC must be dynamic. Good things and advanced things must be seen from the ANC. Just like South Africa, when you want to see good things in style and fashion, you always look at Soweto. And then you know that Soweto. Then thereafter we'll just be following, because Soweto has been a trendsetter in many ways, because they are just next to OR Tambo Airport, Soweto people. So Tina, we are very far from airports where we come from. We don't even, it is only during the era of democracy that we got exposed to airports and aeroplanes. So that is the report, that is the issue with regard to the matter of the president address. The issue of role of 2 DSGs, each one of them will have a role to play, but they've got their strength as persons, but we want everyone to express themselves and not close them down on what the Constitution says it is expected from them. It means they must do the political work. They are political officers. The Deputy Secretary General's role in the main was reduced to administrative work. But even if it is not written in the Constitution, Nomvula and Maropeni, they are political animals. They must express themselves. They must lead and not become administrators. They must lead politically and based on their capabilities and their strengths. Yesterday, DSGs, I was asked about what am I bringing in this portfolio by Mkokeli, I think. Yeah, so I explained to him that my upbringing and training is organizational development and party construction. I'm an expert on that. I was trained very, very, very far about that work. So in the school of excellence called the ANC Youth League, I was trained in that. So I was trained also by the Germans. So when you do my profiling, I'll give you some things you don't know. But we leave that to one-on-one, okay? But thank you very much. We are continuing, like we said, so you will get the result this afternoon. So we don't want to delay. Over to the presenters. And thank you, Comrade Pule, for the diligent work you are doing with the media. Your job is guaranteed. Thank you.
Oh. Hi man, hi man, Mbax, can you? Hey. No, thanks very much to the SGO for the time. Thanks, Comrade Mbax. We are still going to be here with the commissions for the next 3-4 hours. Last time we did 6 hours. So, still gonna be a bit hectic. No, Archie, one. They are not the same commissions, actually. Okay, we are going to start with ETC. Colleagues from